Like I said, the information that's out there, if it becomes fast and quickly consumable, easily digestible, people become self-aware also. So a company that is very busy doing work doesn't have time to analyze the data. But if Measure can play that role with thousands of nonprofits of giving them their own information and the information that exists in the sector they're working in, then they can be more efficient in knowing what their faults are or what their potentials are. And when they interact with each other, so if you call the police department and say, these are the issues we feel, so we don't have to feel or seem, we can just say, this is the data we found that was sent by Measure for our city. It cannot be an opinion, there cannot be arguments and debates. So things will get consumed much faster, truths will be absorbed much faster, so that action can happen much quicker. So these different collaborations will be very efficient because it'll be acting on what's already presented to them rather than on, hey, can you give me this data? Let's figure out what's wrong, where we can improve. We will present to them where the improvements have to be done. So we will cause them to just act and not have to be busy gathering information.
So on the one hand, the police use, for example, predictive algorithms to predict where and when crime is likely to occur and then to send their patrol vehicles to those areas. Similarly, they can do some person-based predictive policing where you can develop risk scores of whether or not an individual is more or less likely to be an offender or a victim of a crime. I think some of the more transformative things that are going on involve what's called dragnet surveillance collection. So the idea of collecting data on everybody rather than merely those under criminal suspicion. Increasingly, with the mass digitization of information, there is all of this data, all of these digital traces that we leave in the course of our everyday lives that increasingly the police can access in their daily operations as well.
Data in itself has no inherent value. It has to be put into context for it to have meaning. It has to help answer a question for it to actually become evidence that supports or refutes an idea. When we look at data alone, it's easy to form a premature conclusion if it's not put in context. Big data that relies heavily on race and arrest can bias police officers by causing them to focus more on race and criminal history than actual criminal conduct. On the flip side, racial profiling data not analyzed in its proper context can cause the community to form premature conclusions that the police are biased in their business practices. Meaningful community police partnerships that focus on trying to understand how these biases occur can go a long way in mitigating.
One of the things I love most about Measure is that we have a seat at the table. We have a seat at many tables. We have a seat at the advocacy table. We have a seat in places that a lot of advocacy organizations don't get into. And I feel like it's Measure's responsibility to ensure that we're creating the safest place possible, the safest future possible for everyone. Data is an extremely powerful force, but data is unique in that it's very non-biased. Data doesn't take sides, data doesn't have friends, data just is. And so data can be pulled to either side based on the bias of the interpreter. And so it's Measure's responsibility to ensure that data is not being used to cause harm to people, that data is being used to uplift places and uplift environments and communities with people who are suffering a disparate effect of some sort of law or policy. It's our responsibility to sit at the table and to move the data in the direction that serves the people.